artists, and welcome back to Art with Mrs. Kellogg. Well, it's harvest season, so I thought it would be fun if we created some harvest corn. We're going to review our elements of art, line, shape, and color, and we're going to think a lot about pattern. And that's a really important design principle called repetition. So now, meet me over at my workspace because I want to tell you a little bit more about the art lesson and the art supplies you will need. Here's some examples of the harvest corn we're going to create today. Now let me tell you the art supplies you will need. First thing you want to do is set up your workspace. So put down your art mat or your paper towel. Then you're going to put down your paper. I'm using a 6 by 9 inch paper. And remember, you want to write your name on your art paper. You want to do that with pencil because the marker will show through. So you will need a pencil with an eraser. You're going to need a Sharpie marker. And for the color part of the lesson, you can use color pencils like I am if you have them, or you could use crayons. Now would be a great time for you to pause the video, get your workspace set up and get all your art supplies, and then meet me back here and we'll start creating some harvest corn. Did you get your art supplies? Great, then let's get started creating our harvest corn. The first two elements of art we're going to use are line and shape. But before we start, we want to make sure we have the placement of the corn set up. So this is going to be where the top of the corn is going to go, and then this is where the bottom would go. So I'm going to think of one big oval, or maybe a rounded triangle into an oval. So whatever shape works for you. And I'm going to sketch, which means I'm going to draw lightly. So I think of a rainbow line. And now I'm going to go down into an oval. So I want to fit about 3 to 4 fingers inside the widest part of the oval. Okay, the next step, I'm going to erase all the lines I don't need. Now, before I put in all those square shapes, I want to draw the stalk and the leaves. So I'm going to think triangles and oval for that. Now I see some lines there, so that's a type of overlapping where I draw through. That means I need to erase those lines away. Rectangle for the stalk. I'm going to add some other shapes. I'm going to repeat this line. So you can stop there, or you could add some more leaves off of the stalk. It's really up to you. Now it's time to add the squares for the kernel. There's my vertical lines, now my horizontal lines. I leave my kernels or squares pretty large so I get a lot of color in those shapes. I don't want to make them too small. And now it's time to trace all my shapes. Did you trace your harvest corn? Great. Well, there's one thing I want to remind you of. Artists have choices. So if you would like to just trace your corn and then add color, you can stop here and watch the color part of this video. Or you can watch the next step of this video where I'll show you how to add more black marker work to your harvest corn art. And then we'll add the color. Now I've traced most of my shapes with my black Sharpie marker. And I want to add a little bit more marker work to get my shapes to stand out. So the first thing I think about are the leaves from the stalk of the corn. And notice I drew a line here and I drew another line. But I want it to look like the corn's coming out of the center. So I'm going to use my marker, just shading a little bit at a time or coloring in a little bit at a time around my corn to make it look like it's coming out of the leaves or out of the stalk. So you'll notice where I put those diagonal lines to put the shading or the darker part of the corn stalk in. That's where I'm going to use my marker. But if you would rather do that with color, you can do it with color. Now I want to use the black line to go around the shapes of the kernel. And I'm going to round them off a little bit. So you're the artist, you decide, do you want them more geometric and more angular, and more square-like, or do you want to round them off with a thicker black line? So I'm going to round off my corn kernels. So this is where you want to slow down and take your time. And they don't all have to look even and perfect. I'm going to continue rounding off my kernels with my black Sharpie marker, making my lines a little bit thicker and my shapes a little bit more round. Then meet me back here and we'll add some color to our harvest corn. Did you finish using your black Sharpie marker to round off your corn kernels and shade in parts of the leaves? Great, then let's add some color. And do you remember what we always think about when we're choosing our colors? That's right, that we want to think about putting lighter colors next to darker colors to get all of our shapes to stand out. And because harvest corn has all these beautiful colors and the colors are repeated, that's what we want to do in our art project today. What I look for are some harvest colors, maybe some yellows and reds. But if you would like to choose different colors, you're welcome to do that. But remember to put your colors right next to each other to see if you can create a light-dark pattern. That's going to help your artwork to stand out more. So always putting your colors together will help you see which color is lighter, which color is darker. So I'm going to start adding color, and I'm using colored pencils, but again, you could use crayons if you'd like to for this project. So I'm starting to create my pattern. So this is lighter and this is a little bit darker, but I think this would stand out more here. So I'm going to put this lighter goldish color next to the darker orange. And then I'm using this darker red or burgundy color right next to that yellow so it really stands out. And then I'm just going to keep creating my patterns as I'm working. And again, you choose the colors you want. Just think of pattern, repeating your colors, and that idea of a lighter color next to a darker color. Now I'm going to work with some different greens to get more of a three-dimensional look into my corn stalk. So again, I'm always thinking of lighter colors next to darker. Even if they're the same color, I want some different shades here. So this is really dark green next to a lighter green. I'm going to continue adding color to my harvest corn. Now it's your turn to have some fun adding color to your harvest corn. Well, that's our lesson on creating harvest corn. I hope you enjoyed the lesson and I hope you had fun using the elements of art and remembering that design principle, pattern and repetition. And I always want you to remember when you are creating art to relax, have lots of fun, and keep creating.